Picture this. The same royals who were once hailed as the monarchy's answer to minimalism are now supposedly outgrowing their cramped four-bedroom cottage. Yes, you heard that right. 4 bedrooms for 5 people is apparently a housing crisis in royal terms. While ordinary families make do with far less, our relatable future king and queen are reportedly eyeing up a Gothic mansion complete with tennis courts, swimming pools, and enough acreage to lose a helicopter in. This isn't just about square footage, darlings. This is about status, separation, and the spectacular hypocrisy of royal entitlement. Hello, and welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. I'm your host, Adrian, and do I have some piping hot royal tea for you today? Grab your favourite mug and settle in because we're diving deep into the latest saga of royal entitlement that has me absolutely speechless, and that's saying something. My fabulous viewers, gather around because the saga of entitlement just took another dramatic turn. It seems Prince William and Princess Kate, those two royal revolutionaries who once vowed to keep it simple and down to earth, have suddenly discovered that their 4-bedroom Adelaide Cottage isn't enough space for their sprawling egos. Oh, sorry, I meant growing family needs. Yes, that quaint little Windsor nest which they paraded as the pinnacle of humility when they ditched Kensington Palace is now allegedly feeling a bit tight. Turns out living with 3 kids, a team of nannies, stylists, security officers, and doing the royal minimum has a way of making a place feel cramped. The paint hasn't even dried on the normal upbringing narrative before they're ready to pack up and say, "We want more." Enter Fort Belvedere, a property so royal, so drenched in historical scandal, it practically comes with its own Netflix series. This is no average estate, my friends. This is the infamous Gothic pile where King Edward VIII signed away his crown for Wallis Simpson. And now apparently Will and Kate have it circled in red Sharpie on their vision board. But plot twist, this isn't a vacant property just waiting for royals to come redecorate. Fort Belvedere has been under long-term lease by the billionaire Weston family, owners of Selfridges and real estate portfolios the size of Buckingham itself. For years the Westons have held court there, and it's only now, following the recent passing of both Galen Weston and his wife Hilary, that the fort may be vulnerable to a royal real estate grab. Now let's get real for a second. We're supposed to believe this is about the children needing more room or space for sleepovers. Please, this isn't about kids' bunk beds or Lego storage. This is about optics. This is about status. This is about Kate wanting something more Diana-coded than a 4-bedroom starter home, and William needing to flex as the future king with a mini castle to match. But here's the juicy part. King Charles reportedly isn't loving the idea. Yes, Charles, who's been dishing out slimmed-down monarchy, like it's the new royal diet plan, is apparently throwing a little royal shade on the Belvedere ambitions. Maybe he's worried that giving Will and Kate a fortress might signal a divorce property upgrade, or even worse, make them look like they're trying to upstage him. The king's ego is delicate, y'all. So, what do we have here? A moody mansion, a pair of royals with big dreams and zero humility, a potentially vacant billionaire estate, and a monarch with trust issues. It's basically Succession meets Windsor. The only thing missing is a camera crew and Meghan sipping tea in Montecito, watching the chaos unfold with a peaceful smile. So let me get this royal soap opera straight. Just 3 years ago, William and Kate were hailed as the monarchy's version of minimalists. The British press couldn't stop gushing about their down-to-earth choice to move into Adelaide Cottage, a modest 4-bedroom hideaway tucked in Windsor, described like it was the royal version of a fixer-upper with good schools and a charming garden gnome. The narrative? They were just 2 hands-on parents trying to give their kids a normal life, far from the chaos of palace grandeur. Fast forward to today, and suddenly Adelaide isn't cosy anymore. It's cramped. Apparently 4 bedrooms for 5 people just isn't cutting it. You'd think they were forced to live in a shoebox in East London the way their PR team is spinning it. Oh no, poor George can't invite over a friend. Charlotte can't practice her backhand in peace. Louis needs room for his tantrums. Somebody call the property brothers. The royals need an upgrade. But let's not be fooled. This isn't about swing sets or sleepovers. This is about status, optics, and real estate revenge. William and Kate want space not just for the kids, but for their egos. The humble royals act was cute for a minute, But now that the Sussexes are thriving in Montecito and Charles is tightening the purse strings, W and K want their own royal playground. One with 8 bedrooms, a lake, a tennis court, and enough space to lose your husband in. Enter the always ready to defend royal expert Jenny Bond, who quickly tap-danced into the conversation. She tried to soothe the public with words like, "The Wales are focused on what's best for their children. Sweetie, no. If this is about the kids, then I'm the Duchess of Mars with a corgi collection. Let's call this move what it is. A strategic play, a status boost, a subtle separation maneuver gift wrapped in toddler-friendly PR. Because let's face it, you don't eye up Fort Belvedere unless you're looking for privacy with prestige. This is the real-life royal version of saying it's not a mansion, it's just a more livable cottage with a polo field and a lake. The same tabloids that once clutched their pearls about Meghan and Harry's Frogmore renovations are now completely fine with this potential palace shuffle. The hypocrisy is as thick as the castle walls. But here's the kicker, we've seen this tactic before. Give the wife a pretty place to play royal mother. Keep her away from the press and act like it's all about protecting the children. It's the classic royal strategy. Quiet her role, give her a grand house and make it look like a noble sacrifice. Meanwhile, Kate gets her own upgraded separation estate, Will gets plausible deniability, and the press gets to keep spinning the myth of the perfect future king and queen. All while the public foots the bill. Funny how they always find the room to expand when it's for themselves. The comments from viewers are absolutely scathing, and rightfully so. As one viewer pointed out, Carol, the Middletons and the Waleses are so greedy and grasping. The widow just died a couple of days ago. Not even buried in the ground when the stories came out that they wanted the fort. They really are the most useless family around. Free yacht, freebie homes, they would put Marie Antoinette to shame. The rats keep glossing over the fact that they have a bottomless pit of avarice paid by the public. This really is the end of the monarchy, filled by greedy, tone-deaf people devoted to a life of selfishness. They serve no one but themselves. Fort Belvedere will curse them. It's just a small castle, y'all. I think they will get pushback for this, but that won't make a difference to them. The line about staff and RPOs is ridiculous. I'm sure there is lodging for RPOs on the Windsor estate as it is, and we all know the staff quarters are right next to Adelaide Cottage. Maybe this is all about the Middletons. I can see this move happening, and then, when William and Kate move to Windsor Castle, her parents just take up permanent residence in the fort. But if there is a signed lease, presumably with some sort of financial involvement, which I'm assuming also includes the Westons paying for all repairs and renovations, Charles may not be inclined to pass it on to the Waleses. It's going to require millions in renovations, even if the house is in good shape, which I'm assuming it is. You know, Kate and her mother are going to demand extensive renovations, and that won't come from the Duchy of Cornwall. I'm interested to see how the press plays this, since they spent the past 3 years telling us how perfect Adelaide Cottage was for them. But now that George is going to boarding school, they need a bigger house for sleepovers. I think Kate very much wants to be the fun mum with the fun house. And at Adelaide, there's nothing cool or different for guests to do apart from having a playdate at the Wales. The fort would give them more space for movie rooms, swimming and tennis, among who knows what else. I think their modest accommodations, in the eyes of the kids' friends or even cousins, is what is driving this. I do think it's in horrific taste to start pushing this narrative so close to the owner dying. How trashy. But I guess they don't care because, hey, it's empty now and we need more space. Gross. This is one of those cases where I feel like it's more about William than Kate. Well, I think she's also upset this is what they were given when moving from Kensington Palace because they were overlooked. I think it's getting harder to maintain the narrative that he lives in Adelaide the older the kids get. The oldest two are definitely at the age of friends hanging out after school, during school breaks and having sleepovers, and kids are not discreet at all. At some point, someone's going to question it out loud. How come your dad's never at your house? Too many people whispering the same thing allows open secrets to become a little too open. Also, I think it's his ego, Kate's too, though thinking that Adelaide is not nice enough. I don't think he actually lives there, but the going story is that he does. and I don't think he thinks it's a nice enough place for the heir to live, especially as he continues his one-sided feud competition. The emphasis on the tennis court and swimming pool just blows the whole "we're so normal" thing out of the water. They have a tennis court and swimming pool at Anmer where they go for every extended break and even most weekends when they're not vacationing elsewhere. So is the issue that Charlotte needs a tennis court every single day of the week? There are no other tennis courts she can use on the Windsor estate? They can't call the Westons and say, "Hey, can the princess practice on your court a few times a week?" The interesting thing about this, much like the story about George yesterday, is that they are still putting so much emphasis on how Charlotte needs the tennis court. So it's not WK's fault they want to move. Charlotte needs a better house with a tennis court. All the kids need a swimming pool. The Wales are openly using their kids to try to get a better house, and it's gross. Good luck, kids. This is just the beginning of your parents throwing you under the bus. William may not be a real estate magnate, but what he is competitive, especially against one particular person. And while he may actually live at Kensington Palace, the storyline which he supports is that he lives with his family at Adelaide, and he doesn't want to shake that because he's a good family man, unlike his brother who hates his wife. It's totally not projection. And his philanderer of a dad in his competitive nature, I don't think that he sees Adelaide as a nice enough place for him to live, especially not when his brother is living on a sprawling estate 10 minutes from the ocean. Now, I do think that everything said about the Middletons is true, but I think they always felt that way. I think this new push is about him. The first go-round of asking for this place was right after the Sussexes moved to Montecito. He's had time to stew about where they live and how nice their house is. Someone has to pay to break that lease, and Charles is saying no. Charles is not going to put his hand in his own pocket. Charles doesn't even want to pay for fixing up a suite at Windsor Castle for them, which is sort of hilarious. Nor apparently is Charles going to support another massively unpopular renovation from the public purse for the Waleses, who already got a £4.50 million renovation of Kensington Palace that they never publicly agreed to. Willie may helicopter there at night for use. So any move to Fort Belvedere is going to come down to whether Willie is willing to pay for it. The costs would include buying out the remaining, 40 years? On the Westons' lease and reimbursing them for any improvements that didn't fall into the buckets of maintenance or cosmetic changes. Then there are all the cosmetic changes Kate and Carol would definitely want. Think lots of chintz and tasselled draperies. My guess is that Willie is saying no to paying for it too, because he doesn't care where Kate ends up after their kids are all in boarding school, and this constant briefing is coming from Kate and Carol. I've always wondered how the Middletons pay for Middleton Manor. They're both in their 70s, and an in-law suite at Fort Belvedere or Windsor would be really sweet. But yes, it's possible Willie realises he needs to live under the same roof as Kate, and the optics at Fort Belvedere are better, so he'll go for it. I keep going back to the Middleton finances. How are they doing financially? Not out of any concern, mind you, but because how easy it would be to cover that you can't afford your house anymore by moving in with your future queen daughter at one of her royal residences. I must help my daughter with the kids, etc., as she prepares for her keenest role yet. Also, my 4-person family had tons of sleepovers for me. Of course, my dad was home every night, so we didn't have to worry about optics. Just 2 years ago, Carol couldn't pay the £200K for unwinding her participation in party pieces. So how are the Middletons heating Middleton Manor and maintaining its roof, pool and everything else? Also, Carol just turned 70, and Michael is in his mid-70s, so managing it will get harder, even if they can afford more staff. A lovely in-law suite in a magnificent castle would be just the ticket. The only slightly embarrassing part would be explaining why the Middletons are selling their manor. You can see the spin now. Kate and William are thrilled to be even closer to her parents, who have been so supportive to the whole family. And now, when all their kids are almost in boarding school, is definitely the time to move them in for reasons. Here is the part of the story that makes me laugh out loud. No way were the family and residents calling up tabloids to brief them about wanting to sell up and move out, whilst the matriarch was quite literally at death's door. And I find the whole scenario shocking and disgraceful. For anyone who thought Charles and Diana and Camilla were the end of the monarchy, have they got news for you? These people are throwing their children to the papers to provide the excuse. We need a tennis court, we need a swimming pool for the kiddies. Just goes to underline the point that none of this was coming from the current residents, and that W&K will seize on any pretext to gratify their lust for power, which translates into ever-increasing funding, which translates into ever more breathless press coverage in an endless loop. Harry looks more savvy and principled every day for saying nope and for being as discreet as he has been. He saw the business model, didn't like the business model, didn't want anything to do with the model. Understatement of the decade. Adelaide Cottage, seen from above, is huge. It may not be royal huge like Royal Lodge, etc., but I live in an affluent part of New England. Adelaide Cottage rivals the size of the mansions where I live. I don't live in one, just to be clear, I'm in a small one-bedroom apartment. 4 bedrooms is a lot for the average person. I don't see how this is an issue for them. Each kid has their own room. Regardless of the state of William and Kate's marriage, William can go hang out at Kensington Palace or Anmer Hall if Adelaide isn't big enough for them to hide from each other. Fort Belvedere is massive. What do the whales need all that room for? Given Charles is not long for this world, a year or two, if I'm being generous, they'll have their pick of royal real estate once he goes. William will not have to wait as long as his dad did to become heir. I don't understand the rush for a massive house when he'll be able to float between all the royal residences once his dad is off the earthly plane. So let me get this royal drama straight, my fabulous viewers. Just a few years ago, the British media went full Disney fairy tale over William and Kate moving into Adelaide Cottage. It was described as humble, grounded, cosy, and every other PR buzzword that screamed, "We're just like you." But with tiaras. The tabloids practically held a parade for the whales' commitment to normalcy. You'd think they were about to start couponing and carpooling in a Volvo. This 4-bedroom cottage, located on royal grounds, mind you, was hyped up as the whales' sanctuary for simplicity. We were told they were giving their kids the gift of ordinary life, just a stone's throw from Granny Middleton's jam jars and Charlotte's ballet recital. Apparently, the royals had seen the light, and that light looked a lot like a slightly smaller palace. But oh, how the winds have changed. Suddenly, we're being fed a new narrative. The same media that once clutched their pearls in admiration of the Wales' minimalism now claim that the house is too small. 4 bedrooms for 5 people, outrageous. How could little George possibly endure another playdate without a ballroom? And poor Louis, how can he grow into a royal rascal if there isn't a second staircase to slide down? Now the excuses are pouring in like Earl Grey on a rainy Windsor day. "It's for the kids," they cry. "The children need room for sleepovers, activities and more space to flourish." Darling, please. You could fit an entire boarding school in that house and still have room for Kate's wiglet closet. This isn't about the kids needing space. This is about the adults needing distance and not from the walls, if you catch my drift. Royal mouthpiece Jenny Bond jumped in to sprinkle some sugar on this mess, telling the press, "William and Catherine are just focused on what's best for the children." Oh, Jenny, bless your heart. If this move is for the children, then I'm the Duchess of Mars with a tiara made of cheese. Let's be real. This is about prestige, privacy, and potentially giving Kate a palace without the burden of proximity to Will. Because what's really being hinted at here, between the lines of family values and childhood development, is a royal repositioning, a quiet shuffle of space and roles. A bigger, better, more private fortress for Kate and the kids to retreat into, all while keeping up appearances. A fortress where you can play perfect family without anyone asking why they haven't been seen in public together for weeks. And the hypocrisy? Chef's kiss? The same press that called Harry and Meghan greedy for renovating Frogmore, a literal gift from the Queen, are now completely fine with William and Kate eyeing up Fort Belvedere, complete with its 8 bedrooms, lake, tennis court, polo stud and acres of royal buffer zone. Let me guess, it's not luxury when it's for the heirs. It's strategic expansion. This whole situation is smelling more and more like a pre-divorce upgrade. Give the princess a palace, paint it as a family-friendly move, and quietly let her settle into her own winged fairy tale. Meanwhile, William can gallop around, pretending to be deeply committed to duty, with enough space between them to avoid awkward glances and side eyes at royal events. If they think they can pull off this PR stunt without people seeing through it, they must assume we've all lost our sense of sight. But not this audience. We see it, we smell it. We're sipping our tea with one brow raised and both receipts in hand. According to reports, Fort Belvedere has everything. Tennis courts for sporty Charlotte, a swimming pool for Kate's solo laps, and acres of land, so William can avoid talking to anyone who expects him to work. There are even 3 cottages on the property for staff, or better yet, Middleton family bunkers. Let's not pretend this is about anything but image rehab. The press keeps hinting at how hard William is working where, and how the Wales are all about relatability. But when it comes to property, they're all about royalty. And remember, this isn't a sudden thought. William and Kate were eyeing Fort Belvedere years ago. They only stopped when the Westons said, "Nope, we're still alive, thanks." Now that lease might be more flexible, and who's ready to pounce? That's right, our modern-day Mr. Darcy and Miss Cottage core. Okay, let's spill the posh tea. There are whispers that Fort Belvedere is not a family move, it's a Kate move. Some insiders suspect this is just an upgraded version of the separation cottage, a nice expansive property to keep Kate and the kids tucked away, with enough rooms to keep awkward family dynamics at a distance. Think about it. You don't gift someone a Gothic mansion with tennis courts and a pool just because they outgrew bunk beds. You give them space, privacy, and plausible deniability. So while tabloids pretend this is a story about expansion, it might really be about division. King Charles, the eco-conscious budget-watching monarch, is reportedly not thrilled. He's trying to downsize the monarchy, not upscale William's housing drama. Sources say he's not exactly green-lighting this real estate flex, but let's be honest, when has William ever waited for approval? The king might want to tighten the purse strings, but William is pulling out his future king card. And if history has shown us anything, it's that the firm will bend over backwards to avoid scandal, even if that means gifting a mansion to avoid headlines. Let's step back and laugh together. When Meghan and Harry left the UK for peace and privacy, the press couldn't stop screaming, "How dare they live in luxury? They want privacy in a mansion!" Yet here are William and Kate, possibly moving into a literal castle for space. Where's the outrage? Where are the snarky headlines? Where are the deranged op-eds about taxpayer dollars? Crickets, my friends. The hypocrisy is as wide as Fort Belvedere's acreage. As always, the tabloids twist themselves into royal pretzels to defend the Wales and attack the Sussexes, but we see through it. Kate and William moving to Fort Belvedere isn't about family needs. It's about status, optics, and quite possibly separation. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry are out here, glowing in Montecito, living their truth without needing castles to validate their worth. That's the real flex, my viewers. Keep sipping that tea, keep checking the receipts, and keep showing up for truth. And if William gets his mansion, well, let him try explaining that to the cost-of-living Brits he's meant to represent. Love wins, truth wins, castles optional. Until next time, this is Adrian, your loyal host of Meghan and Harry Tales. Stay informed, stay critical, and remember, we don't beg for palaces, we build authenticity. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and if you're feeling generous, drop a super thanks or support us through our channel. Keep watching, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next episode.